Police solve what, less than 20% of crime throughout the entire country, and yet we continue to fund them over and over again, and it's not working. Tyre Nichols was pulled over in a car, an unmarked car, with police officers that were in street clothes, which should not happen. And that's not just something that happens in Memphis. That's something that happens in DC, it happens in Maryland, it happens in Virginia, it happens all over the country. We need to get to a system where we don't depend on police because they don't keep us safe. And it's so sad for the people who don't normally be in spaces like this, who aren't aware of the actual issues, who actually do believe that the police keep us safe. How do they feel? You know, when you think that these people are here to protect you and they are the ones that your death is at the hands of. Do you know like how much force it takes to beat somebody with your bare hands? How much violence that takes, how much anger that takes, how much hate that has to take. This system is not working. And matter of fact, let me take it back. It is working. It's working exactly the way that it's intended to. I think we need to break the system, shut it the fuck down, and reimagine what it's like for our communities to actually be safe. Police pulling us over in unmarked cars, wearing street clothing, that's not them trying to keep us safe. That's them targeting us. That is them specifically seeking us out. That is them specifically trying to criminalize us. The issue is criminalization and incarceration. And until we can get legislators in office that's going to do more than do fucking photo ops and kneel on kente cloths like they fucking did something, then we're going to keep being in the streets and people are going to keep dying and black people are going to continue to be hashtags.
So I want to ask this. And I want to get you, Zoya. I want to get you in here so you can share your thoughts as well. But I want to ask you guys, why is there not a conversation about American apartheid? I'm asking because what I mean by that, we know that the American police trained with Israeli soldiers, and they exchange tactics, and they learn from each other. So the United States and Israel, who have a partnership, why does it go one way? Why do people say, oh my God, the United States have a partnership with Israel, now Israel doing what the United States does? No, the United States is doing what Israel is doing as well with their police. They're trading tactics. What do I mean by that? What do we see in Cop City? In Cop City, you had them immediately go and label protesters, people who are dissenting against their government, as domestic terrorists. What do Israel do to Palestinians? They label anyone who resists their genocidal apartheid as terrorist. Do you guys see why there's solidarity between the Palestinian Community Network and RBN? Between RBN, I'm gonna get them back on the show here very soon. And this is why Black people and Palestinians have connected through Palestine, South Africa, Africa America, Brazil, African Americans in Brazil, who Lula, who his support base is built by a lot of people who support Palestine. Lula dominate the Afro-Brazilian vote, and a lot of them stand solidarity with Palestine because we go through the similar struggles. And the police, they literally use the same tactics, the same aggressive tactics. Them using steel bullets at us, them using tear gas at us, them using tear gas against the Palestinians, them killing us, and then blaming us for being aggressive. They do the same thing to Palestinians. They're like, oh my God, that Palestinian threw a rock, that's why we shot him in the head. Oh my God, the protesters threw a water bottle at us, that's why we shot him. It's the same fucking thing.
I was just gonna say, if you, because I do feel like this is a learning moment for some of our white comrades in our community who still probably don't understand this. So, we're gonna go to and explaining that. But before we do that, because I do want to have the segment all together, let me just do a couple of announcements, and then we can get into this topic.
I want to see if I get Zoya. Can I get Zoya in here?
Oh yeah, you had.
I want to get Zoya thoughts.
I'm sorry, Zoya. Go ahead.
No worries. So let's get Zoya, and then we do the announcement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no worries at all. I DM'd you a screenshot.
You can introduce it. I think I see it.
It speaks for itself. It says a call to the people. Due to the massive armed attack that has just occurred in LA against the Black Panther Party, emergency funds are needed at once for bail, legal, and medical needs, and to replace damaged and destroyed equipment. The Black Panther Party will continue to exist as long as the people support it. So the reason I wanted to show this is because if you read the first line, you might think that it's from today, but actually this is 5 decades old. This fight, this resistance against the fascist police state has been ongoing for a really long time. The violence has only escalated. They're better equipped. They have more surveillance technology, and none of us are safe. Nobody in the proletariat is insulated from this violence. If we don't stand up for people today, it's going to be you tomorrow. And those who are condemning any sort of protest that might involve violence, especially against property, I want to say that this system is violence. Poverty is violence. And ignoring these systemic issues for all of these decades, that's what leads to this. And riots are the language of the unheard.
Yeah, how absurd is it that the ruling class is going to tell us, oh, you got to make sure you're civil, as they continually use violence against us, use war crimes like tear gas against us, and then not only against us, like how you resolve your foreign conflicts. They bomb the shit out of the countries, sanctions, starving to death, responsible for massive violence and destructions. And then they look at the black community like, oh my God, why you got so violent? Like, sir, do you see what you did to Iraq? Do you see how you're treating the Haitians and the Cubans? And you guys want to lecture your civilians on how they should act? CJ, I know you want to chime in, so go ahead. I want to hear.
No, it's just this is something. I mean, I was gonna go to announcement, but let's just continue right now.
Yeah, we can go like announcements after ready.
Yeah, because we have to understand a couple of things. Edward Bernays, the founder of modern day propaganda, this is all psychological. What Zoya is saying has been going on for decades. Do you understand how that same problem can persist and people just let it persist? It cannot happen without propaganda. This is why the most shows on TV are police shows.
Yep.
They have police and cartoons.
It's literally a genre. They call it buddy cop.
Right.
shows.
Right. This is all to make you believe that the cops are really doing what you see on TV when they're not doing that at all. This is all to make you okay with police violence as if some sort of just thing. They do police abuse, show police brutality on their own shows all the time. Like they'll be in interrogation rooms and slap people. And but the way they market it, this is why it's so key when we need to talk about Edward Bernays. Maybe we'll talk about him a little bit. It's all about setting, not telling you that's what it needs to be. It's all about setting the conditions to make you think it's believable that cops can still be good, even though you see all these murders happening. They condition you through these TV things. Oh, yeah, because I'm watching TV and 100% of the shows about cops are good. So these 7 or 8 stories I see, these are just small things. You get what I'm saying?
And CJ, just to add quickly, I'll pass right back to you. And when you look at Law and Order or any of these cop shows where they're the protagonists who really care about solving crimes, like they really, even though they really don't, they always have like the antagonist or like the side antagonist. It's always like any regulation that can get in their way of really like fucking it up. Like they're like, oh my god, there's so much red tape. If only we get in there and just bust the baddies up. If only the fucking the DA is on my ass, man. It's like and then they
current affairs or whatever they call it.
And then the unhinged cop that go unhinged, they are seen as the person go up and beyond. Like, oh my god, you see the guy in the Fast and Furious, the guy that the Rock played. He the cop. He goes beyond, up and beyond. That's why he's the best cop out there. Because if you run, he's gonna chase you down. He gonna put you in the rock bottom. You know. And
I think a good analogy here, and we'll bring Zoya in and ask her what she thinks, would be the cop movie with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. What is that? Bad Boys.
Yeah, Bad Boys and Rush Hour.
They had all types of police brutality throughout that movie. But you see how it came from black cops. So I think we can kind of use that as an analogy for this real situation. Go ahead.
And Brooklyn Nine-Nine too.
Yes,
I have friends that watch that. And I see the shows, and they have some funny moments. But like the entire show where they will have so many punchlines where the gag is, oops, I roughed them up a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And that's like the gag. And then it's killing, and they got like, ah, man, you dead again. And
That's
guess,
them
and guess who
making
the
police
chief is?
brutality okay. Like
And
it's
CJ,
police brutality is not the same as violence from us because it's
Yeah.
justice brutality. Go ahead.
yeah, and to your point, who the police chief on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the comedy show? A
The black guy.
gay cop. So they was like, we gotta go above and beyond. Making this guy black isn't enough. We made him black and gay. They was like, you know, it's a double whammy.
Yeah.
Look at that,
Man, but all of these shows are meant to whitewash the stories we have here because it's like, well, if I'm watching on TV and the fictional stories are always the cops are good,
Yep.
these few stories in the news, it's like these are the outliers. These are the bad apples. So and maybe white people are allowing themselves to even believe that. Because I gotta believe, and I'll pass it to both of you. I gotta believe there is a certain segment, maybe it's a small segment of white people who very understand what's actually this is, but they're not just gonna admit that this was going on.
Yeah.
That's just a segment of white, and I do believe that because when I had conversations with people, or when I watch conversations with people, for example, Robbie from Rising, when I'm hearing Ole or Bree make points that are clearly great points, I'm looking at his face. You can see it's a tell in his face, but he's not willing to come on board to say, yeah, this is a big right. Like he's always pushing back, and that's the type of what I'm speaking to. But I'll let both of you chime in.
Yeah, so you have anything you want to have before CJ does an announcement? Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this entire system operates on fear of the other. That's what I think was on Robbie's face. It's things they can't say out loud, but it's fear-based because they think if there aren't cops, then who's going to protect them and all of their valuables? That's really what it's
So
about.
it's like
Self-preservation.
Self-preservation, that's the right word. Thank
That's
you.
right.
Wow, I never looked at that angle because it's like, well, yeah, all of those things are bad, but the cops are still good because if you say, yeah, the cops are bad and yeah, we do need to do that, then it's a feeling of then what protects me?
Yeah,
Why is
that's
that their fear? What do they believe is going to happen?
Well, that's why the first question as abolitionists we always get is like, what's the alternative? Because there is fear. The fear that they think is going to happen is the same propaganda that you referenced, which, by the way,
that is very hard.
Police departments spend hundreds of millions of dollars on just PR. Just to create this reputation of community helpers and saviors. So people are taught that there's violence and that they should be afraid. And the only thing standing between them and this violence is these police, when the data doesn't support that, when we know the cops solve only 2% of major crimes. And that's mostly because, somebody gave somebody up, not because, they're in a CSI lab testing for fingerprints and identifying the hairs. All of these things, they're top-rated shows, and we really want to believe that someone is out there protecting us. And this is how they destroy community, by making us scared of each other. So instead of us leaning on each other and we protect ourselves, they teach us to fear each other and turn to the nanny state to protect us and give up our rights in the process.